On April 13th, 2009, a man by the name of Philip Markoff had responded to an ad on Craigslist from a woman named Julissa Brisman. The advertisement was for companionship, to which Philip was interested in. Day turned to night, and the engaged man headed to the hotel room to meet with Ms. Brisman. 4 months before Philip's wedding day, his life would forever be altered. Upon closing the hotel room door, the two were now alone. However, things took a turn for the worse when Markoff attacked Ms. Brisman with the intent of robbing her. However, Julissa Brisman would not go down without a fight, and as Philip was trying to restrain her with a set of plastic ties he had brought with him, Julissa screamed at the top of her lungs and subsequently was able to break free. Julissa made a break for the door as fast as she could, and then fled the scene. Hey everyone, my name is Wowman. Don't forget to subscribe. And in today's episode, we are going in depth into the case of the Craigslist Killer. Now, to truly figure out what happened on that 2009 night, we need to go back to before Philip became the Craigslist Killer. Philip Markoff was a 23-year-old medical student who had grown up in a small town in New York. So there was nothing out of the ordinary with Philip Markoff. Friends and acquaintances even described Philip as serious, well-behaved, and active in extracurricular activities. No one could have expected what this 23-year-old man was capable of. Earlier in his life, Philip was just a normal guy. He had a solid family with both of his parents, and although his parents were divorced, they both happily remarried, and Philip was totally on board with the entire thing, establishing a strong relationship with the both of them. Even neighbors described Philip as a fine young man, so it's hard to say where the craving for murder began to shape. Perhaps Philip had discovered a way to mask their true identity through a face that he created to avoid suspicion. But what's really interesting is that there's nothing in Philip's childhood that shows any tendencies that could have led to murder, and Philip was normal. Perhaps too normal. It was later that when Philip decided to take the plunge to start pursuing his career as a doctor, he went to a school called SUNY Albany. And it was at that school where Philip met his future fiancée, Megan, a woman that Philip would later deliberately lie to and betray. Both Philip and Megan volunteered at the medical center near their school's campus. And to Megan, she had met the one that she would marry. And for a long time, it felt like just that. Megan had no idea who her beloved really was, until the day everything came crashing down. Philip and Megan had been a couple for around 3 years, and one day Philip decided to take Megan on a romantic trip to the beach and pop the big question.
Megan, will you marry me?
Full of excitement, filled with love and the promise of a lifetime together, Megan said yes. The wedding was set for August 14th, 2009, a wedding that never happened. And from the outside looking in, Philip led a normal life. He was a medical student, overall a pretty nice person, and had just proposed to his longtime girlfriend, Megan. Things couldn't look suspicious even if you tried. However, there are two things that could maybe set off some alarm bells. Philip Markoff was $130,000 in debt from student loans, and one more thing, Philip was also addicted to gambling, contributing to his already large debt. And in May of 2008, Philip began making decisions that would ultimately lead to the destruction of his entire life. Philip had started to reach out to people on Craigslist, specifically in search of meeting up with a woman at a hotel. Philip was in search of feeding the hunger that festered inside of him, a hunger to be something other than ordinary. Perhaps there always was an evil that lied dormant inside of him, but now it was finally showing its ugly head. Philip began exchanging messages with a trans person, and Philip did right using this email address. And honestly, the grossest part of this email address is the @yahoo.com. I'm not even kidding. Oh, why use Yahoo? and Philip had begun to reach out to people on Craigslist in search of meeting up with somebody at a hotel. And in the following messages, they also contained explicit photos. Philip tried to meet with this person time and time again, but they never wanted to. And it was later reported that Philip had sent multiple messages to multiple people who had also posted ads on Craigslist, and he was specifically searching for the term, quote, men looking for trans. Even going as far as to pose as a woman on Craigslist, labeling himself as this. Philip was living a double life and was doing all of this right under his fiance's nose. And what's worse is that Philip and his fiancée were planning their wedding during all of this. But a few months later, in April of 2009, Philip was finally able to meet up with somebody. Julissa Brisman. Philip had just killed a woman in his hotel room. With blood on his hands, Philip simply walked out of the room as if nothing happened. Philip walked home, greeted his fiancée, and went to bed with no trouble at all sleeping that night. Philip had just committed murder and was just acting like this was just another day. Truly disgusting.
Good night, honey.
The next day, Philip had arranged yet again another meeting with another woman offering her services at a hotel room. Trisha Leffler, another person in danger of the sinister capabilities of Philip Markoff. The two had met in the hotel room, and just as Philip had done before with Julissa, as soon as Philip closed that hotel room door, he pulled a gun on Trisha and demanded her to keep quiet. He proceeded to tie her up with the exact same zip ties he used to attempt to tie up Julissa, but this time he was successful. He robbed her of everything she had and left her tied up in the hotel room. And then Philip just went home to his fiancée right after, like nothing had happened. Philip Markoff was living a double life, meeting up with women, attacking and robbing them, and then coming home to his fiancée, who had not even the slightest clue that her future husband would even be capable of something like this. And the very next night, not even 2 days had passed, the very next night, Philip met up with yet again another woman in a hotel room. It's now been 2 days since Philip murdered Julissa, and he was about to attack another woman. And this time Philip met up with a woman named Cynthia Melton, who went through the exact same experience as did the previous woman. Philip had agreed to meet up with Cynthia for a lap dance, and once they were locked in a hotel room, Philip pulled a gun on Cynthia, tied her up with the zip ties he always brought with him, and asked her for her cash and cards. And allegedly, Philip even said this:
Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you. Just give me the money.
But as soon as Philip said this to Cynthia, her husband burst through the hotel room door. However, upon seeing Philip with a gun in his hand, aiming at his wife, the husband just ran away, which is something I don't exactly know how I feel about. I mean, running away might be the best option. Because you can get help, right? You're probably just gonna get shot if you stay there. But then again, your spouse is probably gonna get shot if you leave. So, it's a real dilemma. But yes, the husband saw his wife tied up at gunpoint and ran away. But luckily, as soon as the husband ran away, so did Philip. Presumably because Philip was worried that the husband was going to alert the authorities, and thus Philip made his escape. And the night ended there. Philip running back home to his fiancée.
CBS News correspondent Daniel Seberg joins us with details. Daniel, good morning.
Good morning, Julie. The big question at this point is, why did he do it?
News began spreading of a killer on the loose called the Craiglist Killer. Every news outlet was covering this story, and people began freaking out, most people avoiding using Craigslist at all costs. The Craiglist Killer had burrowed its way into the minds of the American people. The whole world wanted to know, who was the Craiglist Killer? Every time that Philip had committed a crime, he would do the exact same thing every single time. He would leave the woman locked in the hotel room and use his phone in the lobby. and this habit eventually led to the capture of the killer. He left messages recorded by email providers and IP addresses, visible to Craigslist each time someone made a post. Using this information, police were able to determine that the messages responding to the Craigslist ads had come from an apartment building in Boston. And what really helped authorities narrow it down to Philip was the CCTV footage. So what they did is that they began staking out the apartment building, identified through the IP address, and found that Philip Markoff had a fairly striking resemblance to the man that appeared in the CCTV footage. And with enough evidence gathered to make an arrest, on April 20th, police followed Philip on the road, then pulling him over and arresting him in front of his deeply confused fiancée. Megan had no idea what was going on. To her, the police were arresting her fiancé for no apparent reason. Police subsequently raided Philip's home and found bullets, cash, Philip's plastic ties that he used for every single attack, and something really disgusting. Police found the panties of one of the women that he had attacked. However, most importantly, what police found was a USB drive with the messages that Philip had with Julissa regarding her post on Craigslist. This was the evidence that police needed to finally close the case, that Philip Markoff was the Craigslist killer.
But at this time, where our theory of the case is that he was preying upon young women who were advertising their services on Craigslist for robbery. Well, I think that's something that at this point we're looking at, but at this point, again, we continue to believe that his focus was robbery. What motivated his robbery, why he was robbing women, could gambling have been an issue? We'll look at that, but right now, robbery was the motive.
And perhaps the saddest part of this entire story is that Philip's wife refused to believe that any of this was true, despite all of the evidence proving that Philip was indeed the Craigslist killer. Megan said that her fiancé was a beautiful man inside and out, and that he wouldn't hurt a fly. However, Megan couldn't have been more wrong, completely unaware of what her fiancé was truly capable of. Megan did not believe anyone. That is, until she met Philip at the jail that they were holding him at. It is unknown what exactly the two talked about, because that information was kept between Megan and Philip. But Megan came out of that prison having cancelled the wedding and broken up with Philip, telling him that she would never see him again. In August 2010, Philip Markoff took his own life. It's reported that because of his knowledge of being a medical student, Philip knew exactly where to damage himself to make it so he would bleed out. He damaged the major arteries in his ankles, legs, and neck, even stuffing toilet paper down his throat, and covered his head with a plastic bag. And as he bled out from within his cell, he wrote one final message on the wall. Megan. And that, my friends, is the story of the Craigslist killer. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please consider subscribing and stick around. We cover all sorts of horror content on this channel. It's great. And as always, huge thank you to all my beautiful Patreons, Peachy Lee, Cubery, Brian, Harlow, Estenia, Bleh, and 10 Tiny Bees. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. And if you'd also like to help contribute to supporting the channel, the Patreon link is in the description. And yeah, that's everything. Thank you guys so much for spending some time with me. It was great. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.